Hi friends, so my name is Kiatana. I am so excited to be finally starting this. And welcome to Square of Self-Love. This is my favorite concept. I am so excited to be starting this podcast. So before we get started, please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as wherever you're listening to this, as well as follow me on Instagram at square.of.self.love. Let's get into it. So my name is Kiatana. I am a fourth year medical student, aspiring future psychiatrist. I am currently applying to residency and will have more information on where I end up. But for now, I am passionate about medicine. I'm passionate about people, and I'm really passionate about self-development. And so I like to start off with a quote, usually, just to set the tone. I feel like it just gives a good kind of ambiance for the episode. So today's quote is, "Self-love is not selfish, it's essential." And this is by Unknown. Just a little bit of background story about myself. So I kind of really got into self-love in 2018. I ended up experiencing, you could say, a little bit of a heartbreak out of a situationship. And so through that, I essentially really just kind of wanted to dig deep into what went wrong. I started to feel really down on myself. I had a pretty negative just perspective about myself for a time. And I really wanted to better just like understand myself. And I felt like a lot of the reason I even ended up in that situation was because I put the situation before I put, myself. And I wasn't really loving myself the way I knew I deserved. And so this kind of, I guess, inspired me to kind of just, it looked very hurt. It probably looked very hurt. And it was just kind of, I would think about things, that I should know about loving myself. And encouraging other people to kind of just think about these things. And so I would post like just little sayings on, Snapchat or wherever my social media was at the time. And sometimes people would, really like them. They'd feel really inspired. And I loved when people would reach out to me and be like, wow, like, I really love this. And so I did it for quite a while. And then eventually, life happened, kind of got busy, just let it fall to the wayside. And so from that, the pandemic happened, and I just really kind of recognized how critical or essential self-love is, especially in times of isolation, especially in times of, when the world doesn't make you feel valuable. And so, unfortunately, we see a lot of just outcomes when there is, a lack of self-love and a lack of self-value. A lot of examples of that in the world today. And so as I apply to residency and I think about all the things that I'm inspired by, and I talk more about what I really enjoy, the concept of self-love just seemed to resurface for me. And I've always said I wanted to, I'm a big fan of podcasts. I've always listened to podcasts, and I feel like now the whole industry of social media is very saturated with podcasts, so they don't need mine. However, I am, a young woman with many opinions and I love sharing my opinions. And I found myself kind of going on rants very frequently, just talking about this. And so I feel like it just naturally makes sense that I put them somewhere, my opinions. And then, if someone wants to listen, if someone wants to share, if someone wants to engage with this, I'm just grateful. I think that's the spirit that I'm in. I feel like at this point, starting a YouTube channel and all the social media things, I don't want it to feel like a job. This is something I enjoy doing, and this is a hobby for me. And so I want to treat it like that. And that's really where my inspiration comes from. Just, whenever I have a thought or, and just something's on my heart, I want to share with you guys. And that's really where I'm at. So, like I said, if you have any, suggestions or anything, I'm happy to take them. And I have so much planned for this, but, I think part of the fun in having a podcast and engaging in discussion with people is, making them a part of that as well. So, that's my background story. And then, a little more about me. I'm from Kansas City. That's essentially, my hometown. My family's here. I'm very social. I consider myself a reserved extrovert, which is definitely something I made up, or maybe I didn't, I don't know. But I'm very social. I feel like I get energy from being in social environments, but I don't necessarily have to be, bouncing off the walls. I feel like people have certain preconceived notions about extroverts. And so I'm not sure what your preconceived notions may be, but I feel like I just enjoy social settings. And I think that is something that I had to learn to enjoy. I think that is something that I had to really learn to be comfortable with. And a lot of that came from just practicing self-love and, figuring out what brings me joy, what makes me happy. And so throughout this, production, I really want to hit on just like all the things that we experience that might cost our self-love, that might damage or, hinder, inhibit the ways that we love ourselves. And in a lot of ways, it can feel selfish. And that's really why I love this quote, because I feel like for a long time, I felt like having a podcast about self-love might sound arrogant, and it might sound, a little just like, but I feel like in today's climate, people really understand just how necessary that is. And so hopefully this is well received. And, if it's not, I understand. It's not, it's not for everybody. But for the people who need it, I'm happy to be here. So I have like my little notes and I'm also like recording on my iPad as I, record on my phones. Those are like all the things. But so, like I said, my goal for the podcast is essentially to create a platform that kind of walks people through the steps of, where you can strengthen your self-love, how to implement that self-love on a daily basis, on a consistent basis, finding out, ways to just like give yourself that gratification. Because I think the saddest part for me, just personally, was that at one point I felt like I was getting my gratification from, different parts of my, social atmosphere. And that is very dependent on who's there, the situation, the occasion, and that's draining. And you can't really get your value from that. And I think there's so much power in recognizing that your value is, within you. So that's really one of my main goals for this, is just kind of helping people come to that and, really use that in whatever way they understand. And then too, I just hope it helps others. So this episode today is pretty brief. I just wanted to, let me see where I'm at. Yes, I use my watch for things like this. So we're only at 2 minutes. That's great. So I guess I can talk a bit about like my first concept. So introduction to self-love. Let's talk about like 3 things that I guess self-love means to me. And so if I have to kind of just like make a skeleton of what self-love means to me, I'm thinking number 1 would be self-love means loving myself more than I love situations. And this is actually pretty big. It probably could be an episode, but loving myself more than I love situations. So that means I have to recognize, a lot of opportunities exist in the world. There are a lot of things that I'm going to want and I'm going to want to do. And, people I'm going to want to be around and circumstances I want to be a part of. And I have to recognize some of those circumstances are just not good for me. Some of those situations are not meant for me. Some of those places I simply, can't afford to be, either, financially, mentally, emotionally, whatever. And so, in the world of, as big as social media is, I think a lot of the things that I've even found myself doing, and for some other people, is, wanting to do certain things for the photo op, wanting to be in certain situations to appear or put on the presence of one thing on social media. And just recognizing, that momentary gratification, is it worth all the work it takes to kind of get that, photo, get that position, or have people perceive you like this? And I think just recognizing that, you will quickly drain your mental bank. You will quickly drain yourself, just trying to keep up with, the standards of others. But how gratifying it is if you just know for yourself that, I love myself enough to gratify myself. I love myself enough to give myself that validation that I don't need, people to see me any type of way. And quite frankly, as long as I see me at a high standard and a valuable standard, that can't be taken away from me. That can't be taken away from me. And so that would be number one for me. Number two, I would say that my value is intrinsic. And so this is somewhat similar to the first one. But essentially, I set my value. I say how much or how important I am to the world. Because everyone has an intrinsic value, and everyone is valuable to the world. Everyone has a gift that no other person has, regardless of if it looks like, we do the same things. You might bring a whole new perspective to the situation than someone else. And so just knowing that I have a value and believing that my value is unique is so critical to self-love. Just knowing that, I do matter. I am important. I bring something new to the table. And though it may look very bland, very, average, you just have to believe that, what you're invested in, what you're doing is different and it is valuable. And even if it isn't different, two heads are better than one. So maybe you add value in quantity, So I think that's one thing just to understand, is just knowing that, you have intrinsic value and you are important. So that's number two. Number three, I would say is, forgiving yourself. And this will absolutely be something that I want to, expand upon, because this is something I've had to learn, and this is not easy. And I think when you, just to give you some insight on kind of how I think about it, is when you discount yourself for other people or other situations that you didn't belong in, or, that didn't deserve you, you can really be upset with yourself, because you almost feel like you let yourself down. You trusted yourself, or you trusted the situation more than you trusted yourself. And you really have to forgive yourself for things like that. And when you hold on to that almost resentment, and you have a level of distrust for yourself and your insight and your intuition, that makes it really hard to kind of continue in that way and grow. And so just keeping in mind that, you do have to forgive yourself in a lot of ways when it comes to situations like this. And, we're all human, and that's the biggest thing. I definitely had to forgive myself even for that situation, because, I opened my heart and I thought I could trust, that I was safe to open my heart here, and I didn't. And I feel like for a lot of people, the natural reaction from that is to just clamp, just to clam up and not let anyone in. But you have to realize you have a personality, you have qualities that the world needs, and you have value. And to hold on to that is only really going to be hard for yourself, because you have to stay closed, you have to stay tense, you have to stay, naturally walled off. And eventually that may become easier for you, but I don't think as humans that's natural for us. I don't think we are naturally guarded and on edge, and high, just like, blocked off from people and trusting others. And so I think just giving yourself that grace and forgiveness in that space can really go a long way. So I think as far as like a first episode, I think that's a decent start. My goal is really to have like 20 to 30 minute episodes. I think that's plenty, deep dives. And I have some plans as far as like just how I want to really interact with people, because I really want this to be like a collaborative kind of situation. I don't want to just be like talking at people about how to love themselves and then never really know if it's working. So if you have any way to give feedback, any at all, no feedback is bad feedback. Even if you have negative opinions, I'll take it, whatever. But, I feel like part of just knowing self-love and knowing that, it's a part of your growth. It's a part of your journey, is that, no one can dictate whether or not my message is important, right? If it's important to me, it's important. And so I think just having that mindset is that, somebody's going to like it. There's so many people on this planet. Someone's bound to like it. And if no one likes it, my mom likes it. Like, and that's plenty for me. So I think just recognizing that and hopefully we can have this journey together, right? Like, I don't think you're ever done working on self-love. I think this is something that you always have to remind yourself. You always have to work on. If this is kind of your morning routine, I love that. I'm happy to I would love to keep going so that I can give people something to listen to in the morning when they do their affirmations, when they meditate, when they're driving to work, or anything. So I think that's just really critical for me. That's really important to me. And I love people, I like just helping others. If I can make their day just a little easier, life is hard. Life is hard. And there are so many unideal circumstances and situations. And so if I can just be that little piece that's like not so bad, I'll take it. I'm happy. So I'll stop rambling, even though that's probably what a lot of this is going to be. But thank you so much for listening to my first episode or watching. And like I said, if you could like, share, subscribe, send this to anybody you know, send this to anybody who knows me, send this to anyone that you feel like, would really value this message. Share it on your social media, all the things. Everyone always says the same thing, but, I just thank you for being here. So anyway, signing out.